David Fincher's The Killer has arrived on Netflix, and after watching the film, I think it's a great return to the stylish thrillers that we are used to seeing from this filmmaker. The direction by Fincher, the score by Trent Reznor, the performance from Michael Fassbender, and the bending of thematics in a character study or assassin film like this makes it an intriguing dive into the mind of a cold killer, even if it is flawed. It really is a welcome return to the thrillers of old by Fincher, and it honestly feels like he never left. So in this video, I'm going to be listing the main reasons why I think The Killer is David Fincher back to his stylish best. This video essay will contain brief spoilers, so if you do happen to be someone who hasn't seen the film yet, then I would recommend watching this video after you've seen it. Before I get into it though, if you want to keep up to date on any of my upcoming content for auteur-driven films like David Fincher's The Killer, then don't forget to support this upload by giving it a like rating, subscribing to the channel, and turning on your notifications. But without further ado, let's dive into my thoughts on The Killer. So David Fincher is known for being a meticulous and precise modern filmmaker, and it makes sense that his latest film The Killer is about a meticulous assassin who initially details exactly how things will go down and what makes people be the way they are. He's essentially able to stick to his plan, stay hidden, kill his target, and then flee the location without being seen. The film is based on the comic book of the same name and centers around the unnamed assassin played by Michael Fassbender taking on his latest objective in Paris. The opening scene is one that really sets the tone of this stylish film, and depending on how you react to it, it will probably result in how much you become attached to the movie or not. For me, it's probably one of my favourite openings in a film this year, as Fincher combines a somewhat Rear Window inspired sequence with that of Patrick Bateman inspired narration to make you understand the lack of heart and empathy that this individual initially gives off. Fassbender's killer uses an abandoned space to snipe his target across the street, but before we get to that shooting, Fincher puts us firmly in his mind, watching his metonymous routine, listening only to the music of the Smiths, and hearing his inner thoughts through narration as he talks about how his coldness makes him perfect for what he does. The scene goes on and on until we reach the moment that he shoots his target, but instead of killing them, he kills the woman seducing his target across the street. It's a moment of twisted comedy that completely flips the thematics of the opening 15-minute build-up, and it sets in line a subverted assassin film where Fassbender's killer is critiqued on his lack of empathy. It's unlike anything I've seen from an assassin film in the past, and the fact that Fincher was able to make this quite comical at times speaks to how intriguing and entertaining it really is. It's from this very mistake in the opening sequence that the rest of the movie builds on, as the director plays with the expectations of this character arc. As he leaves Paris, he realizes that his mistake has led to a personal attack in the Dominican Republic, and he makes it his mission across the globe to hunt down the people who tried to wrong him, which again is partly a result of his own actions. And in those very scenes that follow, the idea of a killer without empathy is explored much deeper. Classic Fincher is exactly what you get from The Killer. Since those early days of Seven and Fight Club, yes, we've had great thriller movies from the director, but this really brings us back to the stylish aesthetics and interrogations of his earlier work. How the quick cut and paste editing adds to the idea of a killer who tries to get the job done and has little emotion for those he kills. How the frenetic music adds to the intensity of fight scenes later on and the derailing nature of our lead character's initial motives. This music at the start is much more orchestral, and that plays well into the idea of someone who is slowly losing the coldness they claimed they had. The film is split into 6 chapters, with the majority of them seeing the unnamed assassin try and eliminate someone who wronged him, which includes the brute, the expert, and the lawyer. While The Killer's opening makes you feel like there isn't any threat that could derail his meticulous ridiculous ways, once he makes his mistake and as the chapters progress, there becomes an increasing sense that this hitman can't do this forever. And that's definitely the case when you see the contradicting nature of the scenes around the later targets, as he goes from having no empathy into someone who spends 10 minutes talking to them before he does kill them off. It essentially goes from a profession that isn't personal into one that is, and that affects the complete idea of what he is actually doing. It's a complete character study of empathy that has all the style and bite of an earlier Fincher film, making you think about the true thematics behind it, rather than just the simplistic plot that keeps it all together. While his movies like the recent Mank were more sentimental and also triumphant technically, The Killer gives us the cynical nature of his earlier studies and returns us to the murkier colour grades he used to display on the big screen. Not just this, but we get a return of the famous monologues that portray the main character's inner feeling of isolation, only to realise that this is partly his own doing. It's a return to the stylistic thrillers that we are used to seeing from Fincher, ones that build on the central themes visually and sonically. And while it is more stripped back than his earlier work, like with Seven and Fight Club, there's still more depth to it than the killer's initial personality plays into. When it comes to another strength of the film, I think Michael Fassbender's performance has to be equally praised, as alongside it being an ideal one to really communicate the interrogation of coldness, it also marks the actor's first performance in many years. And the fact that he's this good shows that there's no signs of him slowing down. He expertly shifts between being intelligent, cool and slightly worried, and his demeanour is a perfect fit for the idea of a detached assassin. The moments in the film where just by his expressions you can see that he's battling with his inner thoughts, and then how his dialogue and narration changes, makes it all the more effective. It's a great reminder of Fassbender's acting skills and presence on screen, and it really makes me interested in what roles he'll take on next. While the actor does run the show, there is also a few good smaller roles in the ensemble too, with Charles Parnell and Tilda Swinton delivering their dialogue effectively in crucial twisty scenes. The scene between Swinton and Fassbender in a posh restaurant was probably one of my favourite moments in the film, and it was here where you believe that the opening narration by Fassbender has now completely been contradicted. Yes, he still kills his target and doesn't trust anything she does, but we as an audience have to question, why start your interrogation at the restaurant and find out about her motives if you're only going to kill her immediately when you get outside? But that's exactly the point. The killer claimed he didn't give a crap about those he killed and stuck to his plan, but here he wants to know why his victims did what they did, and by the time we reach his fourth target, he doesn't really stick to his plan at all. Those small details make this an effective take on the assassin film and showcase the exact twist in the main character's psychology as his globe-trotting hunt progresses. He might begin by thinking he's flawless, but it becomes clear to us that those days are now over. I think as a whole, this film is a good character study because we get an idea of the killer's philosophies without it being repeated to us over and over. We understand it from the get-go, and then those very principles that are narrated to us are challenged and questioned in the many scenes that follow. And when he does remind himself through narration to stick to the plan, the way Fassbender delivers those lines makes you feel just as unconvinced as he is. David Fincher's The Killer isn't a perfect film though, and I think its tight structure is one that was always going to bring flaws. Even though the formulaic aspects of it as an assassin film do help in its central interrogation, it does also become too obvious as it progresses, and the feeling I have after watching it is that in the moment it's engaging, but afterwards it doesn't linger as much as the director's earlier films might have. It's a tight project that looks talks and says exactly what it needs to, but it isn't as detailed nor provoking as, say, Seven, Fight Club, or Zodiac. Again though, that's not the worst thing in the world, because like I just mentioned, it's a film that still does and says what it intends and needs to. While it goes deep but doesn't go deep enough, I'd still rank it high on the middle tier of Fincher's filmography, and the absolute style of the piece gets me even more excited to see what he'll approach next. If anything, it feels like a pilot to a TV show, with Fincher getting back to his stylish thriller roots so that he can go even crazier on the next outing. While it was flawed as a complete experience, I still think that fans of the director's work will enjoy this as much as I did, and there's plenty to love about it stylistically and thematically too. It doesn't have the resonance to reach masterpieces like The Social Network, Seven, or Fight Club, but The Killer is an engrossing and interrogating action thriller that for the most part successfully subverts the assassin film. But that was my review for David Fincher's The Killer. The filmmaker's latest film makes for a tense watch at times, but in other moments, it feels like a comical interrogation of empathy versus no empathy. I think he could have gone further with some of these thematics, especially during the ending scenes, and while The Killer mainly feels like a first step back towards his roots, I can't deny that it was a stylish and entertaining entry that worked in more ways than it didn't. It makes me want to revisit those earlier classics by the filmmaker and in the future see much more from him when it comes to the thriller genre. With a great leading performance, stylish filmmaking, and cold-blooded intensity, The Killer has a lot going for it, and that's mainly due to the precision and direction of David Fincher. I'm giving The Killer on Netflix a rating of 8.5 out of 10. But to those who have already seen the film, what do you think of David Fincher's The Killer movie, and do you agree that it's a great return to the stylish thrillers that we used to see from him? Again, it's all subjective, and I appreciate a range of reactions and reviews, so let me know down below in the comment section what you thought towards it. For more videos on the work of David Fincher and other auteur-driven films, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like rating and follow me on social media via the links in the description. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.